So let's say you found a skeleton. How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I don't know research on that.
Hey everybody, welcome to Matt with Maddie 26, Climbing Mount Stupid. We're back after a quick 1 month break. Maddie, how you doing?
Oh my God, I am doing is what is happening. We are in the home stretch in dissertation land, and I have fully lost my mind. So I feel like I'm in a good place to deal with raw mat.
I am a little surprised to hear you say that because I don't know that there is such a thing as a good place to deal with raw mat. But
already insane is a good place to start.
Yes,
though.
well, that is why we are climbing Mount Stupid, and actually, it was noticed in the chat that like one of the themes for the thumbnails and titles in this seems to be like cosmic horror stuff, and that's because I feel like the theme of like the encroaching madness as you realize something new about the world is similar to how we feel as we become slowly more and more insane as we learn that there is someone just as stupid as either of the mats.
Either of the mats. It's really impressive. And like, here's the thing, team, Romans, countrymen, is that, I can't do that. Then you guys can't see emotional support Batman. Okay. Here's the thing. Trying to genuinely understand what either of the Matthews thinks, right? Because there's what they say, and that it just sounds like nonsense, right? Yeah. But like, what if you try to piece apart? Okay, how is it that they view the world that causes them to say these things?
Right, because they presumably think that they're making sense.
Yeah, they think they're making sense, right? So can I put myself into their headspace and figure out what they mean, right? That is, I feel like my, staring into the abyss. This is my Cthulhu.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I will pay for with my sanity. Yeah. And I don't think it's worth it.
Some people visit mysterious islands in the middle of the Pacific full of cyclopean architecture that follows non-Euclidean geometry. Right. Maddie and I watch raw Matt and Matt Powell videos.
That's what we do. Same effect.
Yeah.
Same end result.
All right. So before we get going, I do want to point out that we do this as a little bit of a drinking game. And also, because I still had some left, I am going to be continuing the Carolina Reaper sausage deal, but I have made a couple tweaks based on my experience last time. The first one is that basically whenever more than one drink trigger came in, I ended up having like a backlog of sausage bits, and it was hard to keep up with like new things coming in and whatnot. So instead of doing every other as a sausage bit, I'm going to do every third. But to make up for that, oh, there's Godzilla. Let's drink for Godzilla.
Godzilla, yeah.
I guess I just took a drink, so I'll take one more drink and then a sausage. Whatever, it's fine.
There you
go. To make up for that, I also now have almost twice as many pieces of sausage.
Oof.
Yeah. So last time it was 12. It's currently 21, I believe.
That is a lot of really spicy sausage. Pepper.
Yep, I'm gonna regret it.
I'm concerned for your yes. Yeah, you are.
This is my dinner. This is literally just my dinner. I'm gonna eat Carolina Reaper sausage and wash it down with mojito.
And hey, team, you don't have to play with alcohol to have fun with us. I find myself kind of dehydrated today because of alcohol I drank last night because we had a babysitter and we went out and it was great. So I'm playing with Gatorade so that I don't die because I'm still in recovery.
There you go. There you go.
So, listen, if I finish my Gatorade, there's beer in the fridge if I'm feeling up to it. But like, so play along with your beverage or food or vape of your choice or just enjoy us playing.
Yeah.
Right?
And if you do play with an intoxicating substance, though, do be careful. Don't drive, operate heavy machinery, don't text your ex. We here at the Dapper Dino channel, Maddie included, do not accept responsibility or liability for anything that you do while under the influence after playing this game. Know yourself, know your pace, make sure that you're not overindulging. For instance, I'm not taking like a shot every drink trigger. I'm taking, a little gulp of a mojito.
Know your limits and have fun, right? That's what this is about.
Absolutely. So let's go over the drink triggers. First of all, we have one real quick one, which is Dapper as a professional, which is when I screw up something about the production of the show, which I did because I started not late, but late for me. So I'll take a drink for that.
That's true. Okay. Next one's a Reaper for you?
Yes, the next one is a Carolina Reaper sausage. Peace. Okay, so we will take a drink whenever Raw Matt says something that's so stupid, I sort of need something to make sure my brain doesn't melt. So I take a nice cold drink with alcohol in it, because that also serves as brain coolant, because, you know, the...
Brain coolant.
Yeah, so, you know, alcohol, you know, has like a lower boiling point, so it's easier for it to take that latent heat of vaporization away from things. That's why when you put alcohol on your skin, it feels colder than putting the same volume of water on your skin.
Yep.
That's how it works. Don't ask questions about that in depth. That's just accept
you can ask questions about me in depth. You can ask me questions about that in depth.
Well, okay, but I'm not sure that it actually works inside of a brain, so I'm just going to go with it.
Oh, okay. It's like, you want to talk about latent heat of vaporization?
No, latent heat of vaporization, yeah. But
you.
Inside of a brain, I'm not sure that that is within your wheelhouse.
That's not. Brain's not my wheelhouse. Brains are squishy, right?
They are squishy.
They're so squishy. That's what I know about brains. That is the full amount of my knowledge.
I doubt that.
Squish.
I'll bet you have a lot more, but we're not going to test it right now. Also, we will take a drink if Raw Matt actually gets something factually correct, but he's not just quoting something. Now, that'll be a little hard to tell because we actually don't have video of him in this, so we can't tell if he's reading something or if he's Googling something or something like that, right? We kind of have to just go with our guts on that. It also doesn't happen very much because he's Raw Matt.
Yeah.
Raw Matt is just wrong for apparently no reason all the time.
About everything.
Yeah.
Like about things you don't need to be, that it's not hard to be right about.
Right. He'll just decide to take the dumbest take on basically any topic he even tries to touch. It's amazing. In fact, if you were to go through your life just deciding to take the opposite position of Raw Matt on literally everything, you would be right most of the time.
Yeah. It's a great way to live your life.
Well, I actually don't suggest that as your heuristic of choice, but, you know, I could think of worse ones. Like,
there's worse
accepting
ways,
everything that Matt says. That would be worse, especially since a lot of it's contradictory. We'll also take a drink if Raw Matt tells a joke that doesn't land or tells a story that didn't happen. Also tell a joke if Raw Matt mentions that political party in Germany that was, really popular in like the 1940s and whatnot.
That is take a drink, not tell a joke if that happens.
Yes.
That's okay.
Yeah. We'll also, then this is more of a Matt Powell, but if we go also to Columbine, I want to say
school
this
shootings.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I was
ruined
trying
it
to say
already.
it in a YouTube friendly way, but nope, that cat's out of the bag now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Let's see. We'll also take a drink if Matt goes ad hominid, which is our drink trigger for when a creationist confuses what is known of the particular individual, Lucy, versus what is known about her any wider taxon to which she belongs, right? So if they say, well, we don't even know what the feet of Australopithecus look like because Lucy didn't have any feet. Well, other Australopithecus finds do. So yes, we do in fact know what the feet of Australopithecus look like. Despite the fact that's not happening. We only get one of those per stream because once it starts, it's usually more or less constant. We also have Trojan source in the extremely unlikely event that Raw Matt actually cites a source. We will try to check it, and if it not only fails to support his point, but it actually actively contradicts it, that's a Trojan source, and we take a drink for that. Trojan
source is my favorite drink trigger.
It is really good. Unfortunately, Raw Matt doesn't cite very much.
That's true.
He just kind of talks off the top of his head.
He just says, trust me, bro.
Yeah, he does a lot of trust me, bro. We will also take a drink anytime. Now, there's some that you guys can do, but if Maddie or I can predict what Matt's next point is going to be, where it's not very obvious, we'll take a drink if we're correct. So that's the prediction drink. Now, there's also a few ways you guys can get us a drink. If you send a super chat or membership milestone chat that has any of the kaiju emoji, we have Godzilla, we have King Ghidorah, we have Mothra, we'll take a drink for that. Also, if you, like earlier, audibly hear Godzilla come in, or Mothra, we'll take a drink for that. And if you send a super chat or a membership milestone chat indicating that AIG, that's Answers in Genesis, are a bag of dicks, we'll take a drink for that. You do have to be a little clever, because if you just type in AIG or a bag of dicks, YouTube will automatically censor it. It's not even a me thing. Like, I don't have any of those words on my banned words list. I do have some banned words, but none of them are those. And last but not least, if you send any gifted memberships, we'll take a drink for each gifted membership up to the 30 membership number. After you actually go for the 50, I will just finish this mojito and go get another one and add 50 to the drink counter. So
there you go.
Because I'm not going to sit here and count out 50 drinks. It's going to take forever. So, yeah. All right. With that being said, I was going to say I'm ready, but that's not fair. I am unlikely to become more ready in the time frame available for this show. How about you, Maddie? Yeah, you're also in that situation?
I'm in that. Listen, guys, you can see him back here now again. I have emotional support Batman ready, right? I'm doing some embroidery to keep my hands busy so I don't rage. And I think we should get started. I would like to remind the audience that what we're reacting to here is an interview with Matt on a nutrition podcast.
Yep.
And his interviewer is also named Matt.
Yes. And in this nutrition podcast, Matt has just told us that while he accepts speciation, he doesn't think that birds speciated from dinosaurs, which is a bit like saying, I don't think dogs speciated from mammals.
Excellent.
So let's see what else he's got for us.
Last call for bingo there in the chat. So grab that link from Fear Bro et al. Monger.
Oh, yes.
If you want to play bingo,
I'm actually going to pin that so that it is right there.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. Without further ado.
You see the difference? They actually believe that. They believe that the T-Rex evolved, speciated continuously from birds over time into modern-day chickens.
I don't even know where to start with that, so I'm starting with some sausage.
Okay, yeah, let's start. Okay, if I am not a biologist, right? And that's not my jam, but it is my understanding that they're chickens are raptors, and so they would not be like a descendant of a T-Rex.
They are definitely not descendants of a T-Rex.
Okay.
So first, let's
they and T-Rexes would share a common ancestor, but the branching happened a pretty long time ago?
Somewhere in like the early Jurassic, probably.
Okay.
Early to mid-Jurassic.
Look at me getting stuff right about not my field.
Bits of morphology disproves evolution rage for member for 7 months, who is at the Amniote level, says, I can apparently milestone chat emojis, but can't super chat them. With a bunch of tunicates, more pelagic than sessile, which is unfortunate. But then also, one of the AIG is a bag of dicks ones. Oh, I forgot to up my drink counter earlier. So we'll take a drink for that.
Drink.
Yeah, that was extremely spicy. Okay.
So, I've got baby monitor on too, and she just got up and wiggled. Okay, but she's back down.
Okay.
Good, yeah.
So, T-Rex and birds definitely share a dinosaur common ancestor. However, T-Rex is basically on the opposite side of the Coelurosaur branch, which is the only clade to which is the smallest clade to which both birds and T-Rexes belong. So T-Rex is as far away from being a bird as you can be while still being a Coelurosaur.
Okay.
So,
could
T-Rex
you give me Could you give me an analogy of like what would be an animal similarly far away from a human as like a T-Rex is from a chicken?
Maybe a platypus.
Okay. That's helpful. That's really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely a lot farther away than a human and a kangaroo.
Okay.
Humans and kangaroos are much more closely related than a chicken and a T-Rex would be.
Okay.
So, T-Rex did not speciate into chickens. No, chickens are not the direct descendant of T-Rexes, nor are T-Rexes birds. Nothing in the ancestry of T-Rex could reasonably be called a bird by anyone.
Okay.
So, when Matt says that T-Rex speciated into chickens and evolved from birds, both of those things are just wrong. Because, remember, Matt fundamentally does not understand how nested hierarchies work. He just cannot wrap his brain around that. So,
yeah.
Here we go.
because chickens share more relation genetically with a Tyrannosaurus. So there you go.
Than what?
Than what? Yeah.
Like, it's like me coming up and saying, "Hey, Maddie, these sausages are spicier," and then leaving.
Yeah, like then what?
Yeah. No, to be fair, the answer is most things.
Right.
But if I don't say that, then it's not even a real thought.
Right. Like, is a T-Rex is more closely related to a chicken than a chicken is to a chimpanzee? Like, sure.
Yeah, that's certainly true.
Yeah, but like,
it's closer than a crocodile is.
Yeah,
which is also
like
closer.
Than what matters a lot.
Yeah, you can't just use the comparative form and then not have a follow up to that.
Yeah,
you could use the superlative form. You know. In fact, many languages actually don't have a separate superlative form, and if you just use the comparative without anything to compare it to, the meaning that is intended is just the superlative. But English doesn't do that. So, I mean, Arabic does that. It's one of the things I remember from Arabic class. But last I checked, Ramat doesn't speak any Arabic.
Don't think he's Arabic.
Yeah. I don't even speak any Spanish.
Know what an Essene is.
Well, he's an ordained Essene, though.
He's an ordained Essene?
According to his book. His book about like his diet says on his list of qualifications, one of them is ordained Essene.
I know, we've talked about that on this stream, on a previous stream. By the way, I'm trying to think of a good, like, why is 26 a good number? And my best answer is that it's twice 13, and 13 is prime, so that's delightful. So it is the product of two primes.
Okay.
Which is a good reason for 26.
I mean,
anyway,
fair.
I might come up with a better one.
Dudley 1998 says, for $5, Dapper, are you closer or further cousins to birds than T-Rexes? It's equal for me. I am definitely farther away from birds than T-Rexes are, but I am equally far away from both T-Rexes and birds.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of like
good to know.
You are definitely further away from deer as a human than you are from chimpanzees. But you're not any closer to, say, giraffes or pigs
than I am to deer.
Than you are to deer, right? You have an equal distance from all of those, animals.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. TD Lane's getting on to us.
Yes. TD says, who's been there for 24 months, says, stop. Okay, that's enough stalling with the Godzilla. Yeah, okay, we'll take a drink for the Godzilla.
Fine, TD.
They believe that speciation has no boundaries, and that if you take it back far enough, everything is related.
I mean, yeah, basically. I don't know what you mean by boundaries in terms of speciation, but yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Take a drink or eat a piece of sausage.
Yeah, there we go. Take a drink for he said something that's true.
Mm-hmm.
We don't believe that. We say that there are boundaries and that there are clear genetic boundaries.
Yeah, but you've never proposed any, Matt.
Yeah. Yeah, what are those?
Mm-hmm.
Would love to see something that's testable out of that claim.
Goodness, that is...
You doing okay?
I'm sweating.
Are you going to turn into a dragon and breathe fire?
I might. These things are really... They're Carolina Reapers. They're very intense. I really like spicy food, but I don't actually consider myself a pepperhead. So...
Okay.
Yeah, like, I'm not someone who just regularly, like, bites into Carolina Reaper peppers just for funsies. I gotta say, though, they are delicious. They really are. Anyway, like, creationists will say this, right? They're like, there's these barriers to speciations that prevent organisms from going across kinds. Which just means, like, okay, well, what are those barriers? And you still have never really defined kind in a useful way. So, like...
Yeah.
What does any of that mean?
Exactly. Because, like the Kindhoven'ism, right, is like, you'll never get a dog the size of Texas. Well, that's true, but that's not because of some genetic limit. That's because of environmental factors. Right, that's because that dog couldn't breathe, right, and there's not enough food to support it. But
not only that, it couldn't effectively coordinate its tissues because nerve impulses only travel so fast. And so did you know that giraffes almost never actually use their vocal cords?
Really?
Yeah, it's because they basically can't. Because that impulse from their brain has to go down around their heart, then back up to the vocal cords. Because this is the recurrent laryngeal nerve. And it does the same thing in you, but your neck isn't, like 8 feet long.
Yeah, my neck is a reasonable size.
Right. So for giraffes, it has to go all the way down to their heart, then all the way back up to just under their jaw. And it takes so long for signals to do that other than very, very rare instances of long range communications to say like, here's where the herd is.
Yeah.
They basically just don't vocalize.
That's actually kind of now I want a sci-fi species that like limits their words because of that, because
so
of something
hard.
like that. And like how does that affect language?
Oh, we have a couple super chats. Dr. Don Hogg, xenobiologist at large, for $2 says, I am as far above mutants as you are above humans. Nice. Although, technically,
Excellent.
everyone is a mutant.
That's true. Listen, last night, I was with my husband and we were at an arcade and we were playing an old school X-Men game, and my husband loves X-Men, right? And I was so proud of myself because I knew all of the characters, I knew all of the villains we were fighting. And I was like, I do love you. I do pay attention when you talk about X-Men.
Hey, the next MCU movie is going to have an X-Man in it.
Yay!
Yeah, Wolverine is going to be in the next MCU movie.
Oh my god. That's my husband's favorite character. He's going to go nuts.
Savage Perpetual Emotion Lungs Cobra for $2 says, physics is a lie from Satan. Obviously. And DM Artificially Selected Ceratopsian Wing for $2 says, giraffes are a lie from Satan. Interestingly enough, I actually have a video where a guy says that all the animals he's talking about are under a satanic conspiracy to hide them from the world because they're evidence of creation. And one of the animals he brings up is giraffes. And I'm like, I'm sorry, there's a satanic conspiracy to hide the existence of giraffes? Aren't they prominently kept in like nearly every zoo I can think of?
Yeah, there's a baby giraffe at our zoo right now.
There's one at the zoo here too. It was actually just born like this year, or well, within the last year.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I actually saw it in person. It was the same trip where I sent you that picture of the spectacled bear.
Oh, yes! Mm-hmm. That made me so happy.
I was expecting it to.
Yeah.
Cross-platform Adventures, who's been a member for 11 months, says, Darwin and others considered multiple origins of life true. We just have not found any evidence for where common ancestry of cellular life stops with the Godzilla. Yep, we'll take a drink for the Godzilla. And that's true.
That's true. There's nothing about evolution that requires universal common ancestry, but that just appears to be what has happened here on Earth.
Mm-hmm. Fade to Grey, praise Luca, for $2 says, Satan is a lie from Satan. Nice. Oh, it's
That's
playing.
Interesting.
Oh,
yeah, one of the parts I loved about
this is the other Matt.
What is it? Genesis.
Yes.
Forget the name of that channel. Ken Ham's channel.
Answers in Genesis?
No.
Creations in Genesis or something. Is the animals on the ark and
Answers in
Okay. You know what? Raw Matt got it for him. Good job, Raw Matt. You helped out your buddy.
Answers in Genesis. Thank you. Yeah. And like those animals aren't around today. A lot of the animals that Noah put on his ark, right? They were like prehistoric animals that kind of through speciation kind of changed into what we see today.
That actually is Ken Ham's approximate model, and it's really kind of bonkers because the thing is, if you take the early version of that, right, where you have the easy version of that is what I meant to say, where you have 4,400 years to get from like an original canine common ancestor to modern canine diversity. Mm-hmm. It's already far faster than you could get to within any reasonable estimates of how fast things like speciation and evolution go. Yeah. Don't be fooled. That is evolution, what they're talking about there. They like to pretend it's not, but it absolutely is. But the thing is, we know you don't have that long, because we know that by the Old Kingdom of Egypt, multiple modern species are depicted in art by humans in Egypt. Which means, and also we have like early reports of whalers who were Roman whalers, because yes, the Romans hunted whales, who talk about different modern species of cetaceans that are identifiable as such. Which means you have like maybe tops 500 or 600 years to get things like mammoths, Asian elephants, African elephants, mastodons, different kinds of whale, like blue whales, fin whales, pilot whales, right whales, all from whatever survived the flood. Now, with whales, maybe it's a little bit easier. It can be like, well, they speciated before the flood, so I guess it's okay. But it's not going to, like, you don't have all that time. You have like 3 to 400 years or so, based on the biblical chronology that they derive, to get every single species of like elephantid and canid and felid and all the other groups. It's like it's
not possible. It's not going to happen.
You would need to be having animals that have litters where every individual member of a litter is a different species.
Yeah. You would need Ken Ham's dogs producing non-dogs, right? Like
basically, yeah.
Basically, I'm saying that tongue in cheek because that would break the law of monophyly, et cetera, so forth. But
yeah, his arc canine female would have to have a litter where
that's like
you've got like a golden jackal and a fox and a tanuki and like a dole and like that's what pops out of her in one litter.
Yeah,
it's just like no, guys.
You need so many miracles.
Yeah. It's not a viable option. Once you realize just how early attested all the modern biological diversity is. Savage Perpetual Motion Lungs Cobra for $2 says, Lasco has entered the chat. Yeah, the cave paintings at Lasco. That's another great thing, right? There's like cave lions in there. There's aurochs. There's horses. There's different kinds of cervids in there. We've got all these modern animals right there. In fact, some of them are already extinct by the time we find the cave. And yeah, it's like, dude, you need that before the Egyptians because no one, not even the young Earth creationists, are saying that Lascaux is like post-Egyptian civilization.
Yeah.
So. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So take, for example, you have a sloth and you put a...
Okay.
Let's have a sloth.
Sloths might be one of the easier ones because there's like 2 different genera of sloth or something. So like, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Sloth, or here's a better example. Here's an actual example that we have today. Take the Mouflon sheep. It's an heirloom sheep, and it was probably the variety of sheep that was on the Ark.
What? Okay, I'm gonna want a citation for that, but I know I'm not gonna get it because I mean it's raw mat, right? But yeah, we definitely need a citation for this particular breed of modern sheep was the one on the Ark that gave rise to what? All of Bovidae? Because remember.
Sheep?
Well, that's the thing. Like, are sheep their own kind? Because remember, sheep are in Bovidae, along with cows and antelope and goats. That's all Bovidae. That's the same family.
Yeah.
Let's see. Dr. Don Hoggs, xenobiologist at large, for $2 says floating Egyptian palaces anchored to the pyramid. Yeah, maybe that helps explain it. Goop23 for $2 says, does the Ark canine evolve from Growlithe?
That's, you know what? It all makes sense now.
Yeah, in your headcanon of the Bible, then just go with yes. No one can stop.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's a very heterozygous animal. It has the ability to speciate and produce.
Saying a very heterozygous animal is a weird way to phrase it. Normally, you would say something like, it's an animal with it's an animal with a population that is highly heterozygous in its genome or something. It's just weird to say that an animal is heterozygous. You can. It's just weird.
Dabber, does heterozygous in this sense, does that mean there's a large amount of genetic diversity within the species? So cheetahs would have a very low degree of heterozygosity?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Basically, it's the same thing as saying it's highly genetically diverse. You could just say that too. But I feel like Raw Matt likes to use the bigger words, especially if he actually has a vague idea of what they mean, because he really, really needs to seem smart. That's a big driver for him. But he doesn't need to seem... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I find a measure of intelligence is if you can explain a complex topic in plain language. I think that's actually much harder than using the big words.
It absolutely is. Vandali 1998 for $10 says, I'm hosting my first debate next week as 2 of Dapper's Discord members argue about what really matters. Is Pokemon or Digimon the better anime? If anyone would like to moderate, DM me. There you go. You want a moderation gig over which is better, Pokemon or Digimon? DM Vandalia. Savage Perpetual Motion Lungs Cobra for $2 says, sloths, famously more cursorial than Velociraptor. I would agree. They are indeed more cursorial than Velociraptor. Except, no, they're more arboreal. They're less cursorial. Because, cursorial means running around, and sloths are famously bad at that. Yeah. I realized it was squishy science, so
Yeah, you were losing me. I'm sorry. I was I know what arboreal means. In theory, Hannah knows what arboreal means.
I feel like that's not even a theory in the scientific sense.
Yeah. Baby girl's favorite animal is koalas, and so we have a couple books about koalas. And she likes to look at the pictures and point at them and say "walla," which I think is really cute. But I read her all the little animal facts about them, and so we've introduced the word arboreal to the 17-month-old.
Hey, you know what? Growing up knowing what arboreal means is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
She definitely won't term out like raw mat if you keep doing stuff like that.
That's the goal.
Yeah,
that's the goal.
That should be the goal of every parent, is to avoid having any of your kids turn out like raw mat.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
There's all of the different sheep and goats that we see in the world today, and that's what we see.
Okay, so on the ark is one pair of sheep and goats. And then does that mean that antelopes and cow, or well, like actual like cows and bison and buffalo and whatnot have their own separate group? Because those are like subfamilies within Bovidae, but normally, like a cow isn't much less like a sheep than like a dog is like a wolf, right? Like these are similar levels of diversity here. So why is it that these animals get special treatment but canines don't? It's very confusing. Could it be because there actually isn't a firm definition of the word kind, and it can just be whatever raw mat wants it to be?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that might be it. Now, is that how science normally works, where just any technical term, you can just make up the new definitions on the fly and just expect everyone to be okay with that?
No.
No?
No. Also, vague terminology, absolutely unacceptable. Absolutely not.
Weird.
Jeez. Yeah.
We see that there was something that speciated, and then we see a decline from that era.
What does that mean? What is it?
What is that? Yeah. Something speciated, and then we see a decline. A decline in what? Because you would see an increase in number of species. You should see an increase in genetic diversity.
Well, that's one of the things, is he actually doesn't seem to believe that species can go up in genetic diversity. He seems to only think they can go down, despite the fact that he accepts that mutations exist, which by definition increase genetic diversity.
Well, then he should think that there is the entire genetic code, the entire genome of all sheep and goat must then be contained within this one breed of sheep, which I feel is really easily disprovable.
It is, actually. You can measure the genetic diversity at any locus in any given group of animals and come up with a number. And whenever you do this, it's almost always far too high to have been present in whatever supposed common ancestors would have been on the ark.
Yeah.
But evolution says that there should not be a decline, that mutations can build information over time, and that speciation being, random mutations will allow for this divergence of the species. But
all right, well, that was kind of dumb. We're going to take a quick drink for...
define decline.
Yeah. So...
That's what I need Ramat to do here.
And also, saying that speciation is random mutation. No, there's also this thing called selection, which is non-random. And then there's another thing called drift, which is random, but also isn't mutation. So evolution is a mix of non-deterministic and deterministic processes. Now, when I say non-deterministic, I do mean at the level at which we can interact with them, either in terms of measurement or prediction or whatever, right? If you drill down at like what's actually happening in the chemistry of a cell, there's a pretty good chance that most things are actually deterministic, but we don't have access to the information that it would take to predict which mutations are going to happen in which cells at which time. Which means we call it random. It's kind of like a dice roll. If you knew everything about what led up to a dice roll, the position of all the dice, the velocity, everything, the air, temperature, humidity, everything, right? You could predict with 100% reliability exactly how those dice are going to roll. Can you actually do that?
No.
Also, unless you're intentionally cheating by like dropping dice or something, if you're just giving a real roll, can you meaningfully know enough to affect the dice roll when you are actually tossing the dice? No, not normally. Which means, are they random? Well, maybe not in some kind of like deep philosophical sense, but in the sense of like what we usually mean colloquially, in that it's not perfectly predictable or controllable, then yeah, it's random.
Yeah.
Savage Perpetual Emotion Lungs Cobra for $5 says, Maddie, you could have stopped at he should think. Yeah, he should probably do that.
Yeah.
We don't really see that. So what he's showing on the ark is more of a representation of what we probably would see in the real world. We don't know exactly what animals were all on the ark, but I have a good idea of a lot of them.
You do?
You do.
That would be very interesting to know. I would love to hear more about this.
Please write and publish that. I would love to see that.
Okay, but Raw Matt, pro tip, next time you try to get something published, maybe left justify the text instead of centering all of it. Because, I mean...
Or just use... Most journals provide a LaTeX template, at least in my field.
Yeah, I mean, they basically... they all give you the layout. You could just follow it. Because here's the thing, right? I read your last paper that you said that you submitted, Ramat. And not only would it not have passed peer review, but it wouldn't have gotten past the submission, like the person who checks to see if you follow the submission guidelines.
Yeah.
That person would have immediately bounced back your paper to say, hey, you didn't follow the formatting guidelines, so you need to do that.
Yeah, fix that before we can move forward.
Yeah. And also putting fake DOI numbers on your paper and putting the logo of the paper of the journal that you're submitting the paper to before it's published. Those are considered at best
that's fraud.
Well, I was going to say at best it's bad form, but yeah, it's actually just academic fraud. Which for the creationists out there is not the same thing as criminal fraud.
No.
Because I've had creationists tell me, well, you're accusing Raw Matt of committing crimes. Like, no, I'm not.
No.
Academic fraud is not a crime.
Listen, have you met academics?
Yeah.
And they're not so different from what we see in the world today. They're all still falling within the kind. You know, there was a form of a skunk that was on the ark, for example. It came out and it started speciating. There was a type of armadillo that was on the ark. There was a type of sloth that was on the ark.
But how do you know, Ramat? Like, okay.
How do you know?
So skunks are in Mephitidae, which is the sister group to Mustelidae, which is where the weasels and the otters and the minks and the stoats and all those little slinky cats are.
Yeah.
Okay. How do we know that there wasn't a common ancestor of Mephitids and Mustelids on the ark? Why is it that we have a Mustelid and a Mephitid as separate groups? How do you know?
Yeah, that's a great question.
And there is no answer, right?
Yeah.
There's just like, it kind of seems good to us. Also, wolverines and badgers, also Mustelids. But they're not really slinky cats.
No.
That's it, you know, and they got off and they migrated and speciated. And the more something migrates and speciates, the more diversity we see because they adapt to that environment.
But Matt, you think that the less diversity that we see. So like you gotta pick and choose, right? You gotta figure this out. Because your idea that we have declining heterozygosity while also having increasing diversity via speciation is internally contradictory. Either that group is getting more diverse or it's getting less diverse. And if it's getting less diverse, then it's not continuing to speciate.
But they are not so different that they would be unrecognizable, you know?
Well, nothing is so different that it's unrecognizable. This is really stupid. This is sausage time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is very dumb. Because, like, okay, we have a time machine and we go back in time.
Mm-hmm.
To the beginning of the Cambrian, right? And we see all the little squishy dudes that existed, right? You and I, we're just gonna be like, look, it's a squishy dude, right? Like,
bunch of squishy dudes.
A bunch of squishy dudes. So, like, what about that? Does he mean unrecognizable from modern life? Like,
so what I think he means is unrecognizable as being a kind. But the problem is we can't recognize kinds in the first place. And if all you mean by a kind is that it's things that have a common ancestor, well, evolution is just the claim that that everything is in one kind then. Yeah. Yeah. And so just like we can recognize that jackals and coyotes and wolves have common ancestry, we can recognize that they have common ancestry with bears and seals and weasels and skunks, and then farther afield with cats and binturongs and hyenas, and going even farther afield with pangolins.
Yeah.
So the thing is, there's no non-arbitrary point to cut that off, right? Any point that you cut that off, I can say, why not one step above?
Yeah. And again, and what's confusing to me is like this model of there existed these pre-flood creatures, right? That had so much genetic diversity. Big creature, strong creature, tears in his eyes. So much genetic diversity, right? That they step off the ark and they're just popping out new species, with the theory then being that each new species is a subset of
previous
that
genetic
original
diversity.
creatures, like, you know, we take this portion of that creature's genome, right?
Mhm.
But like, there's no evidence that those creatures exist. And
Mhm.
then like, okay, so God, sorry, this is so dumb. This is really dumb, and it's not even internally consistent, which is why my brain is like skipping. It's like my brain's like a skipping record right now.
That's one of the problems, and this is one of the problems with trying to figure out what Matt means, because he thinks this makes sense, but there's no way to put this in terms that actually correspond to what actual biology says that leave you with anything that isn't internally contradictory.
Yeah, but he also seems to be claiming that these like these creatures with like a hyper amount of genetic material, right? That they contain all the genetic material of their descendants, right? Exist, right? To some degree, still exist.
Dr. Don Hogg, xenobiologist at large for $2, says, "Anything you evolve, I evolve better."
I'm gonna sing it.
Okay.
Anything you evolve, I evolve better. I evolve anything better than you.
Nice.
And then you're supposed to say, no, you can't.
Yeah, but we're going to have to hit play, though.
Okay, fine.
Because we can't actually turn this into a musical. We have raw mat to get through.
I'm going to turn it into a musical.
All right.
That's the way it goes.
That's interesting. Why do we have long hair and apes do not? Someone asks.
Yeah, the hair that's on our bodies and on our heads are entirely different.
That's just not true. I'm going to take
That's not true.
Okay.
Yeah.
So forensically, it's actually usually not terribly hard to tell whether or not you're getting human hair, but that's almost entirely because of humans doing weird things with their hair. Like, chimpanzees don't use a whole lot of shampoo or conditioner or hairspray or gel
or dye,
right? When you actually just take a look, now every species has distinguishable hair, right? Every species has unique hair. So there are ways to tell. However, there are numerous studies comparing various ape hairs in terms of scale patterning, medulla size and prominence and coloration and all these things. And human hair falls right within the diversity of ape hair. Now, it is true that humans are a bit unusual in that the hair on their head tends to just kind of grow more or less indefinitely, which is not true for most other apes. But here's the thing, right? You can't simply point to one thing that is unique in a particular species, and on that reason alone, remove it from the group to which it otherwise might belong. So, for example, I could say, well, obviously gorillas aren't apes because they are so heavy. Apes aren't that heavy. Well, except for gorillas.
Yeah.
Why are we defining ape by body mass? It's the same question with hair. Apes aren't defined by how long their hair is.
Yeah.
Right? And also, orangutans have really, really long hair, so it's actually not that unique anyway.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a double-edged sword.
Like complaining, it's a common creationist tactic, right? To complain that a certain species falls in, they have some trait that is the extreme of their group, but that's like, and they're just like, therefore can't be the same. Look how much bigger they are. Like, well, like, I mean, a mastiff and a chihuahua are both dogs, right? Like, if size isn't one of the qualifier, right? Which I feel like it typically, like, size alone is not really something that's like
basically never.
Yeah, that's like never a thing that's used. And so, so like if you're saying this species has an extreme in this area that's not one of the defining criteria of this family or this group, right? Then that means nothing.
Yeah, you could even go with, like, say, okay, we have a few species in Equidae, right? Like, we have donkeys, we have various species of zebra, and we actually have, horses. But we also have wild horses and domesticated horses. I'm going to argue that domesticated horses aren't actually members of Equidae because their hair is so much longer than all the other members. Their mane hair is so much longer than all their other members, which is true. Domesticated horses have absurdly long mane hair compared to any other equid.
Yeah.
Would anyone actually agree to saying that, well, therefore domesticated horses aren't equids? Well, no, of course not. Everything else about them screams that they're well within the group.
Right.
In
And
fact, just having
listen,
a
horse
mane.
girls love brushing a mane.
I mean, I can't blame them.
Yeah.
In fact, I have a video on my channel showing that, and it's on the taxonomy video that I have.
Oh yeah, that's the one where you pretend that scientists might legitimately argue that humans are closer to raccoons on the basis of more similar diets than they are to gorillas.
What?
He literally makes the argument that he says taxonomy is so arbitrary that I could find a taxonomic system where humans group with raccoons because of things like more similar diet and habitats than humans and gorillas.
Okay, do it.
Yeah.
You know, like, do it and publish it and
Yep.
see if it works.
See if you can even get that into the Answers Research Journal, my dude.
Right?
They probably won't let you.
No.
There is a forensic investigator from the FBI that comes on, and she says that she can go in and she can differentiate between hair that's found on the carpet, pulling it up. She can say that belongs to a dog, that belongs to a cat, that belongs to a human, and that belongs to an ape.
I'm gonna take a drink.
Yeah, you've already responded to that bit.
Yeah. Look,
Listen, the blue hair was the humans.
right. Yeah, every species has unique hair, and most of the differences between human and other ape hair is down to weird behavioral things humans do.
Yeah.
But yet, that should not really be the case if our common ancestor and most closest common ancestor is that of a chimpanzee or a monkey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, it's time for a piece of sausage because no one is suggesting that chimpanzees are the common ancestor of anything other than chimpanzees.
Chimpanzees.
Yeah, because humans and chimpanzees share a common ancestor that was neither a human nor was it a chimpanzee.
Jeez, okay.
Because essentially, yes, we did lose our body hair, but we didn't lose the hair that's on our head.
Actually, no. That was really spicy.
We have body hair.
You didn't lose any of your body hair, yeah. It's just
it's just really fine.
Mm-hmm. So, apes, including humans, have two phases for each hair follicle. One phase is the vellus phase. The other one is the terminal phase. The vellus phase produces wispy, light, thin hairs. That's the difference. So, for instance, Maddie, you have hair all over your arms.
Sure do.
But most of it is in the vellus phase.
Yes, there's hair up here. You can't even see it.
But I'm going to guess that
I've got hair here. You can see.
I'm going to guess that your husband has dark hairs, thick hairs going farther up his arms than you do.
He sure does.
But you have the same density of hair follicles as he does.
Yeah.
You actually don't have more or less body hair than he does. Your hair is just wispier, and there it is. That's it.
That's it.
It's the same thing with facial hair too.
Yeah, I have facial hair.
You have just as
You
much
just
as
can't see it.
you have just as much as the burliest guy has with the Santa beard guy. Just as many hairs. They're just in different phases. So humans did not lose their body hair. Also, when people go bald, it's usually not actually their hair falling out. I mean, the actual individual strands do fall out, but those follicles are doing just fine. They've just switched back to that vellus phase, which makes it hard to see. But unless someone is actually shaving their head, if you look closely at a bald person's bald spot, you will actually see just as much hair as there ever was. Establish perpetual motion.
Hair as there ever was. Hair as there ever was. It's going to make it miserable.
Perpetual motion lungs Cobra for $5 says, to be fair, it's not like he's ever gotten close enough to a female human to tell. Look, I'm not going to comment. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. I don't know.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
Right? We still have the same hair that a primate would have. I mean, what's the point of losing that beneficial hair that they have for our body hair that does nothing whatsoever for protecting us, right?
So there's a few different things. One is that it makes it easier to get vitamin D through your skin if that's something that's not present in your diet. There's also that having sparser hair makes sweat more effective, and humans have way more sweat glands than other apes do, which means it's a much bigger part of their thermoregulatory apparatus than it is for, say, other apes.
We put a lot of eggs in that long-distance running basket.
Mm-hmm. And as for head hair, there's a number of options, and it's actually not very clear as to why humans have head hair. One option is that it might help with, like, infants being able to cling on to something in case they're being somewhat dropped or something, because it might not be pleasant to have your hair pulled. But if the option is you drop your baby on a rock and don't get your hair pulled, versus you don't drop your baby on a rock but get your hair pulled, both most people and natural selection would probably favor the not dropping on a rock but getting hair pulled option.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I have never dropped my baby. I have had my hair pulled by my baby many times.
Yep.
Anyway.
There's also other things like eyebrows and eyelashes help protect the eyes from getting things like sweat or even just environmental particles in them. Armpit hair is probably there for the smell that most people try to cover up or prevent, because that was probably a signal about things like health and sexual maturity. It's one of the reasons why, little kids don't really need deodorant so much.
Yep.
Pubic hair is almost certainly as mechanical protection during intercourse to prevent things like chafing. So, yeah. DM artificially selected ceratopsian wing for $2 says, what about losing your tibula, Matt? Yeah, Matt, what about the tibula? Matt never talks about the tibula. What are you covering?
Sorry, I don't know. What's the tibula argument?
Oh, so tibula is just something that doesn't exist, that Nephilim Free talked about in a live stream with Raw Matt and Donnie Badinsky and whatnot.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's a made-up bone. It's like a combination of tibia and fibula.
Tibia and fibula. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Sorry, I heard tibula and my brain went ahead and fused tibia and fibula together and was like, that sounds like a thing.
Well, that's exactly what Nephi said, except the difference is that while you acknowledge how little you know about the squishy sciences, he was there as an expert on human evolution and why it's bunk.
Oof.
Yeah.
Fun fact, I have never attended an educational institution that has offered an anatomy class.
Really? Not even like a high school?
I take that back. My high school offered your senior year, you could choose between physics and anatomy.
And you took physics.
I took physics. And I guess right now the university offers anatomy somewhere.
Okay.
Not in my department. I don't know anything that's not my department.
Turns out that was a lie.
That was a lie. What I was trying to get at was MIT doesn't offer anatomy. That is a true statement. All the pre-med kids have to take that at Harvard.
Okay. Dr. Don Hoggs, biologist at large, for $2 says, we did in fact evolve from filthy monkey men. That's right, Professor Farnsworth. We did.
That's right, Farnsworth.
Well, you did,
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they don't get skin cancer. We do.
Yeah, that's just a lie. I'm going to take a drink for that. Chimpanzees get less skin cancer, I'll give you that, but they definitely do get skin cancer. You can just... I was here with Erica when she Googled that.
Yeah. Can I tell you my favorite dumb TikTok health tip?
Yes.
Okay. It has to do with skin cancer. It is people saying that you should wear sunscreen on flights to protect yourself from cosmic rays.
My goodness. Yeah, that's not how that works.
That's not how that works at all. But the problem was there was even so apparently I think pilots, I went down this rabbit hole a little while and I finally got to a study that showed that pilots may have a higher rate of melanomas than the general population. But it didn't say if it was specifically on exposed skin, right? Okay. So, because presumably you could get a melanoma from higher energy ionizing radiation than UV, right?
Oh, yeah, potentially.
And so there was even a dermatologist that was so especially if you're a pilot, you should wear sunscreen. I'm like, how is that going to protect you from an X-ray or gammas, guy?
It's not. It's really not.
It's not.
Yeah.
If you're really, by the way, if you're a passenger and you're really worried about that, close your window. That'll be more effective.
And look, here's the thing. It's not going to hurt anything if you wear sunscreen, so I'm not going to tell you not to. But if you think that's going to protect you from cosmic rays, you got another thing coming, man.
It's oh no, honey. No. Oh yeah, it's not harmful misinformation. It's just
stupid.
Funny.
Yeah.
It's just stupid.
Why would that be the case, right? We see completely different things when we look at them compared to us. The hair is completely different. The follicle and the shaft and how long the hair grows. Remember...
No, it's just... No. I'm just taking a drink.
Yeah. It's differentiable.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean completely different. Right. That doesn't mean alien.
Right. It's sort of hey, each of the members of my audience are different. They're all unique people. That doesn't mean they're not related at all.
Or I'm holding 2 pieces of embroidery floss, one pink, one green. They're clearly easily identifiable from each other, right? Unless you're like, actually, I did choose the most common. If you were red, green colorblind, this might be hard.
Well, one's considerably darker than the other, also.
Yeah, exactly. So we can easily tell these apart. Therefore, they're unrelated, right? Therefore, they're not both embroidery floss. Exactly. No connection between them. They couldn't possibly both be cotton.
And the thing is, of the animals that he considers to be apes, they're all also differentiable. You can easily tell the difference between a gorilla, a chimpanzee, and an orangutan. Like, no one really struggles with this.
Right.
Dr. Don Hogg, xenobiologist at large, for $2 says, pilots with zinc on their nose. Pilots with zinc on their nose is like lifeguards. Yes.
Now, lifeguards should absolutely do that.
Oh, yeah. Especially if you're doing like that thing where like you're just sitting at the lifeguard stand topless like the whole day. Like, you should be slathering yourself in sunscreen.
Please wear sunscreen. Please wear sunscreen. Yeah, but like, it's the pilot. Oh my God.
The tangen are the growth phases, I should say, of the hair. The 3 different stages are entirely different on the top of our head than it is for any primate. No primate grows long hair on the top of their head. Only humans do that.
I mean, that's not actually true. Orangutans do to some extent, but then again, they grow all of their hair long. Because again, every group within a larger taxonomic group is itself unique.
What's the is it a Japanese monkey? It's like an East Asian monkey that hangs out in like hot springs.
Japanese macaques do that.
Macaques, I feel in my mind they have really long hair in this region. Drink for Godzilla.
That's a piece of sausage for me. It's very
but
delicious.
I really only think that because I imagine them being little wizards.
Laughing while eating a sausage.
Lizard monkey hanging out in the sauna. Like, come on.
Laughing while eating Carolina Reaper in infused food is a dangerous game.
It's very different.
Wow.
Ooh, I am sweating.
What is an argument why microevolution with bacteria and viruses, for example, doesn't prove macroevolution? Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't, because microevolution is just what happens when you have macroevolution is just what happens when you have a whole bunch of microevolution.
Yeah.
Okay,
so why
because
microevolution doesn't.
Yeah. Sure, but here's one thing to know real quick. Macroevolution has 2 different definitions.
Ooh, I'll bet this is a lie. I'll bet he'll say that one is just speciation and that the other one is a change between kinds. And only the speciation definition is correct. That's my prediction here.
One is true and one is not. So they try to trick you a lot of times and they go, so you don't believe in macroevolution? Well, macroevolution also means speciation. So by saying, no, you don't believe it, you've just admitted you don't believe something that you actually see with your own eyes.
Correct.
So therefore, be very cautious. Macroevolution, see how they smuggled that in?
No, because that's just what macroevolution is.
Yeah.
They smuggled in something that's true with something that isn't. Because macroevolution, the original definition, was large-scale change over time. For example,
I'm taking a drink. Okay. The original definition, as introduced originally by a botanist, was change at or above the species level. The reason he introduced a new definition is because he didn't believe in gradualism. He expected that speciation could only occur through large-scale macromutations that cause dramatic changes to the genome of the organism undergoing speciation.
Okay.
And so to differentiate that kind of process from the kind of process that he saw that made like plants grow a little bit bigger or have a little bit taller or shorter stems or have a few more or fewer petals or a longer or shorter stamen or something like that, it's like these are microevolutionary changes. They're just new alleles and selection and ordinary processes like that. But he thought that to go from one species to another required things like whole genome duplications, massive like physical changes in the structure of the genome, things like that. He was wrong, but that's why he proposed this distinction. And we're now kind of saddled with it. Like, it doesn't really mean anything anymore, but we're just stuck. Also, Savage Perpetual Motion Lungs Cobra for $10 says, I know some pilots that wear sunscreen you'll get a lot of sun if you're flying into or have it on your side. That's true. There's noticeably more heat in the sunlight, and I presume UV as well. Yeah, look.
Yeah, listen, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, wearing sunscreen is probably going to not be a bad thing. It might be a good thing. However, if you think you're protecting yourself from cosmic rays with sunscreen, you're just not. Here's how to protect yourself from cosmic rays. Big tanks of water and lead.
That's the thing, right? So, like the thing, so like, you know, especially if you're going to be like flying into the sun, like, yeah, please, like, put some sunscreen on your nose. Who cares? But the idea that like, putting like sunscreen would somehow be more effective than your clothes, right?
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah, your clothes are more effective than sunscreen is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just, or like, so pilots are in a weird spot because they're like going forward and they've got like see-through transparent stuff, right? Versus like a passenger who just has that small window. And again, like your clothes and the wall of the airplane are doing most of the heavy lifting.
Oh, I missed a super chat. Oh, I did. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry about that. Bits of Morphology Disproves Evolution Rage for $2 says AIG is a bag of hair follicle shafts.
Oh, that's a good one. I like it. Cheers.
Sorry about that, by the way. I do miss some super chats every once in a while. Please, please, please tag me and let me know that I did that so I can go back and check them, because I promise.
Should we drink for Dapper as a professional?
Yeah, sure, why not? And that right there is Oh, actually, I should have eaten the sausage last time. Whatever, I'll eat the sausage this time. And then, oh my goodness. Okay, hold on. Wow.
Do you need some milk?
Maybe.
A chemist friend of mine told me this. Even better than milk is to get a little bit of like olive oil, put it in your mouth, and just swish it around.
Okay. Is that going to deactivate my nerve endings?
No, but it should
dissolve the capsaicin?
It'll like bind the capsaicin and pull it away. Yeah.
Meld it. Goodness. I'm going to try. Meldeborn, who's been a member for 17 months, is at the Seropsa level, says raw mat could double as a movie projector based on the amount of projection he's done. Yeah, I agree. For some reason, I think I got like extra
heat on that bite?
Yeah, that one was really, really bad.
Oh no.
Okay. Avery, local interdimensional cephalopod, member for 8 months. It says AIG, it's at the amulet level, says AIG is an amorous array of assorted ailing amber shillelaghs stored in sopping slovenly sacks with a dapper emoji.
Beautiful.
I'll take a drink for that.
I love it. Cheers.
Oh. Okay.
Guys, alliteration will get you a virtual gold star from me.
Yeah, definitely. We here at Dapper Dino love alliteration.
A land mammal walking dog-like creature into a whale.
I don't know that I would call any of the ancestors of modern whales dog-like, but sure. And the problem is, Romat, we know that morphology varies with changes in the genome. Like, that's a fact that everyone accepts. You accept that. We accept that. Everyone accepts that. What causes morphology to be unable to vary after a certain point? You have to propose something. You can't just say, well, it can't happen. Because we have every reason to think it can. We have transitional fossils. We know that there's nothing, as far as we can tell, causing the genome to just stop mutating. Selection can keep acting as long as the population persists. Drift keeps on going as long as population persists. So what new mechanism do you have? Because it's kind of like if you were to say, like, humans can't go past 200 miles an hour. I mean, maybe not right now, but like, what prevents that in principle? And the answer is nothing. Nothing prevents that in principle. Humans absolutely can do that. And even if we couldn't currently, there'd be no reason to think that we couldn't in the future. Now, you might say it's dangerous, which, yeah, it sure is. But that doesn't make it impossible. We got a couple more. Dr. Don Hawes, xenobiologist at large, for $2 says, Dapper, and your fancy East Coast evolution. Man, A Clockwork Origin is the best episode of the Futurama revival, bar none.
It's
such a good episode.
It's so good.
And like honestly, the Comedy Central revival was only kind of so-so compared to the the original run of the series.
Yeah,
but that episode is in the Comedy Central revival, and holy crap, is it awesome! It's just perfect.
There's an episode of Deep Space Nine that deals with creationism.
Is there?
It's they do the thing where we talk about it in a different way.
Okay.
Right? But it's when Keiko is starting her school on the station.
Oh, yeah! And the conflict with, like, how do we talk about the wormhole aliens versus the prophets, which are the same thing, kind of?
Exactly.
Yeah,
so the issue of religious ideas being taught in school as scientific fact is what was specifically dealt with.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good episode.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, and actually, there aren't that many Keiko episodes that I like, but that was one of them. Because look, Keiko she's a hit and miss character overall.
Yeah,
she was good. I'm sorry, go ahead.
She's not really. She's on screen well before they know who she is as a character or as a person.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, and then sometimes they're like, "Oh God, who is she?" Because she's just O'Brien's wife.
Right, that's who she is.
That's who she is.
She's Chief O'Brien's wife. She's there to give him an excuse to have family drama.
Exactly. I just rewatched the TNG episode, Disaster, where she gives birth to Molly.
I like that. Where Worf delivers Molly.
One.
And Worf is like, I don't know how to deliver a child. It's like, doesn't matter. The child's coming. You better figure it out.
Right. And that one, like, the actress, she's very funny, you know, but that's not like, Keiko doesn't have a big personality, right? She's dealing with an extreme situation.
Right. Pibblebrook,
anyway.
half dog, half canine, who, by the way, is responsible for me having this sausage in the first place. Yeah, she's the one who got me these. So
well done.
For $2 says capsaicin is solvent in fat or alcohol. Cheers. I believe you mean soluble, but yeah, that is it in alcohol too? Well, in that case, I'm glad I'm having some alcohol. Dapper? No, I can't. I haven't had a trigger. I don't take extra drinks.
That's true.
It's macroevolution. So microevolution are small, little fragmentary changes.
Fragmentary changes, Matt?
Fragmentary changes.
It's not. I'm just going to take a drink because that's not even a word. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something that we can see on a macro level, for example, just very simplistic changes, very small, very advantageous things that are minute. And they try to say that this macroevolution now is the same as microevolution. It's just these small.
Yeah, that's because small things add up to big things, right?
Yeah.
Like a bowl of rice.
A brick.
Yeah, a brick is very different from a house, right?
Yeah.
But if you want to build a house out of bricks, you do it one brick at a time.
Yeah.
You don't just show up with a finished brick wall and like erect it like barn raising in the Amish country style.
Yeah.
Which would be a funny thing to watch someone try, because I guarantee you the brick wall would fall apart.
Yeah.
But yeah. Aries, who's been a member for 3 months and is at the Tetchbot level, sends a membership milestone chat full of Mothras, possibly trying to help me to get me to drink. However, it's actually on a sausage number, so instead I'm eating a sausage.
Oh no!
Yeah, this is the biggest piece too. I'm getting it out of the way.
Quick, hit place, we can hear something dumb.
Changes over time. Again, it's their philosophy. They don't see it. They just presume that it's true because they see the small changes, but they don't see the big ones. So they just say, "Oh, just have faith. It happens."
No, we do see the big ones though.
We do see the big ones though.
Oh my god! It's in the my nose is running. It's in the fossil record all over the place, right? And like, okay. Are we in real time going to watch a land creature become fully aquatic like a whale?
Sure won't.
No.
But I know the answer to this one. The E. coli long-term evolution experiment thing. We've seen a strand of E. coli, right, that now can't process citrate. Ha!
No, can.
Right? Can process citrate and not being able to process in the presence of that. it can do something now that E. coli bacteria specifically can't do.
Yep. In fact, part of the definition for the species of E. coli is an inability to metabolize citrate in the presence of oxygen, which means that technically they no longer meet the definition of E. coli.
Right, which doesn't violate the law of monophyly, because that ability to process citrate, that's like how we identify them, right?
Ooh, Starsong says try White Russians as the drink next time you have spicy food. That's
Yeah.
not a bad idea. DM fragmentary changes. God damn it. DM
Here, I gotcha.
Fragmentary. No, I got it. Fragmentary changes
Okay.
wing for $2 says turtles are the best tetrapods with a bunch of turtle emojis. Thank you.
Thank you. You're correct.
So just use your imagination. You don't have any imagination.
Oh, we missed the break.
We did.
I'm gonna give us a quick break. I'm gonna
Okay.
press this drink a little bit. I'm actually just gonna put some ice in it.
Okay.
And then we'll come back and yeah, just a quick break. And in the meantime, listen to the musical stylings of Beethoven because his music is great. And we are back. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, Maddie. Before we get right back into Raw Matt, I want to give my quick after the break talk, which is to say, this channel is almost entirely supported directly through the generosity of my channel members and my patrons and the viewers here. And also, Fits of Macro Evolution Rage just gifted a Dapper Dinosaur membership, and it went to Thor Rasmussen. So thank you very much. I will take a drink for that. Okay, so if you are someone who is interested in helping the channel survive and grow and, you know, keep me being things like housed and not homeless and naked and starving. Granted, the naked part is easy because all I wear is a top hat and a tie and a monocle, but still, you know, those need to be replaced occasionally. And you're not currently someone who's helping with that, and you'd like to. There are some great ways. There's the Patreon. That's one of the best ways. It's one of the ways where I get the most. So that's one of the reasons I like it the most. But there's also channel memberships. There's a join button right below this. The Patreon is linked in the description. Also, if you go to my channel page, if you navigate to my links, there's the Patreon right there. Either way...
Can I offer a fun hack?
Yes.
Listen, if you guys want to give Dapper, let's say you were like, hey, I want to contribute like $5 a month to the Patreon. That would be amazing. That would be so kind. But you're like, I also really, really, really want those emojis though, because they're shiny and I want to gobble them up. You can support them on the membership for as little as $1.99 a month.
That's true.
And then you could be like, cool, now I'll also go over to the Patreon and do this, right? $1.99 a month on the YouTube membership gets you all those fun emojis, right? And then you could do both and still be just only spending your $5.
And
right?
the Patreon starts at $1 a month, and you can actually go annual for a 15% discount. Look
at that.
So, and yeah, both of them give you access to my special supporter-only Discord server, which is a really fun place. It's a very supporting group. Everyone, I mean, I'm not going to say everyone always gets along all the time. We do have every once in a while conflict come up, but they're usually pretty quickly resolved. And, you know,
it's a pretty cultivated community.
Yeah, you know. And so that's fun. You can get early access to like about 6 months worth of extra videos. I'm expecting another video to drop in the next couple of days, and then another one after that, hopefully by the beginning of next week. And one of these at least is going to be a long one. It's already almost an hour long with just my audio part. Just that on its own is almost an hour long. And yeah, if a monthly or annual thing isn't your deal, there's a bunch of other things. There's a merch store in the description. Also, the merch should be popping up underneath my videos here in the next few days because I have linked my YouTube to my Teespring store.
Didn't you add Mecha Dapper to your Teespring store?
I did add Mecha Dapper to my Teespring store.
Mecha Dapper.
Yep. You can get the red robot version of me on mugs, t-shirts, a bunch of things. Yep. And also there is a Amazon wish list. Also, Sarah Christine just joined the channel at the Tetrapod level. Thank you so much, Sarah. I really do appreciate that. It is always great to have new members. It really does help the channel out.
Members, let's send those tunicates to welcome her.
That's the sessile ones, not the pelagic one.
Pelagic.
Don't listen to Maddie. In fact, instead of listening to Maddie, we're going to listen to Matt.
If you can't picture the little changes adding up to big changes. So see what I mean? It's just more ad hoc explanations.
Dr. Don Hogg, if you want a Maddie emoji, it's possible, but people are going to have to get a lot of memberships to get us our next emoji. We're not terribly, I think we're more than 100 away from the next emoji.
Oof.
Yeah.
For their fairy tale.
Wow. What can we point to as modern day proof of biblical events?
Well, it depends on which event, right? Like, if you're like, what can we point to as modern day, I'm going to say evidence, because proof is a tricky word, of like the conquest of Babylon by King Cyrus the Great of Persia? Well, I mean, there's inscriptions all over the place. There's tons of archaeological evidence. There's historical records from places other than the Bible all over the place that say, yes, King Cyrus the Great conquered Babylon, sent a bunch of the captive Hebrews back to what's now Israel. And we also have archaeological evidence that they, in fact, did rebuild Jerusalem, put up the city walls, and erected a new temple. We've got scads of evidence of that. But if you go for, like, what evidence do we have of, say, the Exodus, Less than none. We have we have disconfirming evidence. We have evidence that it specifically did not happen. So it depends. That's the thing. The Bible isn't one thing, right? What evidence do we have of any of the events in Genesis? Less than none. What evidence do we have of like the events of like Nehemiah? A whole bunch, actually. So yeah, it varies.
For example, Noah's Ark in Turkey.
I'm sorry.
Well, that's definitely not a real thing, but okay.
What was the first part of that question? I didn't hear it.
Oh, what can we point to as being modern day?
This is a nutrition podcast.
Yes. Fragmentary DM Fragmentary Changes Wing says, well, Dapper Dinosaur, Kip Davis proved Jesus was real on YouTube. No, he didn't, and neither did I, and neither of us would claim that. That's just a weird straw man that Godless Engineer and Richard Carrier came up with one day. Which I don't understand why they would do that, but hey.
Proof of biblical events.
Oh my gosh, yeah, a lot of things. They found the King David inscription. They found the...
That's actually true. There is, in fact, a King David inscription, so we'll take a drink. So it doesn't say King David. It actually names a later king, but says that he's of the house of David, indicating, and this was not long after the presumable time of David, which, given that temporal closeness, it means that there probably was a guy named David. Now, was he the king of a united Israel and Judea who had this, giant kingdom with centralized power? Probably not.
Oh, no.
The archaeological evidence at the time indicates that the local area was probably more like a bunch of city-states, and he was probably like a local overlord whose family then came to become more and more prominent in the area and centralized power after his death.
Cool.
But still, there's a guy. His name was David.
Yeah.
It seems like it. So, this is evidence that the story of David, as presented in the Bible, has a core of historical truth. Is everything presented in that story exactly true? Yeah, almost certainly not. Like, did David actually run away from Saul, who also ruled over a united kingdom, and hid in a cave and ate the offering bread from the temple? Yeah, no, probably none of that.
Right.
Tower of Babel inscription.
There is no such thing as the Tower of Babel inscription. I'm just going to take it.
Do you know what he's referencing?
No, I don't even know what he's referencing, but I actually should have eaten a thing here, so I'm going to eat one on the next drink trigger.
Okay.
They found, remember Pontius Pilate when they said, oh, he wasn't real or he didn't ever have anything to do with Jesus? Well, they found that inscription as well.
Actually, the claim was that he basically didn't exist, and that was wrong. So Matt is right about this again. I'll tell you a piece of sausage here.
There's lots of archaeological evidence that we can go on.
Yes, but Matt, you're cherry picking the things for which there is evidence.
Yeah.
Right? Not all of it's in that category.
Well, and that's the idea that whether or not, like you were saying this earlier, but we have some evidence that there was a historical King David, right? And unfortunately, the conclusion that Ramat here is drawing, right, is, there was evidence that King David existed, therefore Noah's flood was real. Right. Therefore, Job was a guy too. Yeah. Right? That's the non sequitur. Is that there being evidence is treating the Bible like a single book, and it's either all true or all false.
Yeah, and it's
a really, really unnuanced way of viewing what the Bible is.
Yeah, it's a collection of books with different authors writing at different times to different audiences for different reasons with different beliefs.
And in different genres of literature.
Also true,
right?
Yeah.
Very few, if any, of the books of the Bible are intended to be a factual history.
Yeah, Chronicles might be and Kings might be.
Might be, but
yeah, that's even that's iffy.
Yeah.
Those are usually the ones that are really good because
Dr. Don Hoggs, Biologist at Large, for $2 says Jesus CrossFit versus Pontius Pilates versus Yoga Flame.
Excellent.
We can find the stories that they're literally talking about, and we can look at them and say, "Oh, look, those are real people." The Bible's talking about literal history.
Not all of it.
Sometimes, yeah, but that's the thing, Ramat. It's if the question is anything in the Bible verifiable using things besides the Bible? The answer is obviously yes. But you don't get to jump from that to therefore all of it is definitely, literally, historically accurate. That's a huge leap. Now, if none of it were historically verifiable, that would be a problem for saying that all of it is historically accurate. So, I mean, you've avoided that problem by finding some things in there that are true. But that doesn't get you to where you want it to, Matt.
But the critic comes along and says, oh, who cares? You know what I mean? They can literally just write it off.
Yeah, because the things that you're talking about right now, like Genesis, you don't have that evidence for, Matt. That's the thing. Right.
So it gets a little bit different. I like using statistical probabilities. I like looking.
I don't believe he has the mathematical knowledge to even attempt to do that, but okay.
Okay. Yeah.
What the scripture says, and then what are the odds that it's true? And
it depends.
And that's a really good way to do something, because that's what all science uses, no matter what field you're in.
No! Sorry, not all science is rooted on statistics. Right? Oh my god. And like, that you can't, what? Sorry, my brain is breaking. Like, you can't, I cannot boil down, even though I use a ton of statistical methods. And I use some imperial orthogonal functions to consider the covariance between fields.
Ooh.
Right? It's very fun. But like, I cannot put a number on what is the probability that my hypothesis is true. Right? Like that, because that's not.
Yeah. My Infinite Journey for $2 says Raw Matt has a gym bag of fragmentary AIG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Use p-value, and it's a statistical probability.
I mean, it is true that p-value is a statistical probability, but Matt, how in the hell are you getting a p-value out of how likely is it that this event in the Bible occurred as depicted? I can't even imagine
I want to see. I don't even know how you would do that.
What's your data table like? Because you need data to come up with a p-value. Right? You actually need a data set.
Yes.
You can't just be like, oh, well, I think it's like 80%, so I'm going to say that my p-value is 0.3. Like, that's not how that works.
Right. Because you would need... So to get a p-value, right, and one of the best ways to do this is with bootleg resampling, right? So I did this in my master's work, right, where I have a data set of atmospheric conditions, so the mean sea level pressure centered in a region that's centered over a type of event, right? And so I have a data set of the atmosphere that's related to this event, right? And then I had to make a dummy data set of atmospheric, like pulling the atmosphere from the same general region, but not intentionally choosing related to a specific event, right? Do that. So I made a random pretend data. I made this data set of 5,000 points, and then went in and pulled like the same number of events, the same number of those samples as the number of events, and I did that 10,000 times, right, to generate a distribution of statistical probabilities, and then compared my data set to that generated distribution and found that my data set was statistically significant at the 99% level. So I had a p-value of less than 1.
Nice.
Right? Or technically less than 0.01 because the p-value is in that person. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so how the fuck do you do that with the... I'm sorry, I said it.
That was our one.
I used the one. How in the world do you do that for the Bible?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Like, what are you comparing it to?
I have no idea.
Gosh.
So remember, they believe that ancient sheep herders that were ignorant wrote the scriptures.
No.
Oh
my goodness.
No, listen, I think that ancient people were much more intelligent than Ramat does,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I have a lot of respect for what they did, and like what they were able to, like, the Babylonians' math blows my mind, right? Because they're doing trigonometry before they have a concept of a zero, right? And I don't know how, and it's astonishing to me, right?
Yeah, I want to point out, Ramat here is complaining about a trope used by like r/atheist type people.
Yeah.
Some of the dumbest representatives of, well, atheists generally.
Yeah.
Anyone who looks into the history of the composition of the Bible in terms of scholarship, not Christian scholarship, not Jewish scholarship, just critical scholarship.
Yeah.
Will find that the Bible was primarily written by highly educated scribes.
Yeah.
They weren't shepherds. Shepherds don't have time to compose big long texts about the history of their kingdom as propaganda against rival nations.
Right. They're busy with their sheep.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So if that's true, then that would mean that they got future events completely accurate, that they
There are no
citation needed.
Yeah, there are no demonstrable future events that are predicted in the Bible that have come true that we can tell were written before those events.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons why I haven't heard back from the Jehovah's Witnesses, who said they were going to come back to me with evidence that the book of Daniel was written in the middle of the exile rather than after it.
Ooh, also, here's the thing. Being well educated, I am very well educated, and I am no more able to predict the future by divine revelation than my 17-month-old who is not well educated because she only has a handful of words, right? So the level of education and even intelligence of the person who is receiving divine revelation of the future is, again, that feels unrelated to me.
It does. Although it might matter in terms of your ability to communicate that prophecy should you receive one.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
Should have never gotten accurate. It would be like a child today writing in a diary about the future in 6,000 years from now.
Hey, you were just talking about that.
And getting everything right. That's completely unheard of, especially when it comes to scientific findings. So we have a lot of paleontology and a lot of
By the way, my mouth is currently burning.
Geographical things. We have, remember, people...
Yeah, I'm going to take a drink of the geographical thing.
We have geographical things, Dapper. That's what he said.
Here's the thing. The Bible geography is reasonably accurate because it never, even in the New Testament, gets any farther than Rome. Basically, people living in...
Don't you know, Dapper? Job was from the east.
Yeah, that means China.
And Kent Hovind, that means China.
Yeah, I forgot.
Says that means China.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, leaving aside the absolute insanity of Kent Hovind thinking that Job is about China, despite the fact that it mentions people groups from Mesopotamia, we'll forget about that part. But yeah, everything in the Bible is within that radius, basically from Jerusalem to basically Rome. Anything closer than that is the stuff that you can find in the Bible. That's just to say that the people who wrote the Bible, who lived in the area the Bible is set in, knew more or less what was around them. That is to be expected. That is not extraordinary.
Yeah.
Now, Dr. Don Hogg, xenobiologist at large for $2 says, Shepherd, 2 ways to pass time, Brokeback or Bible. Yeah, Shepherd, 2 ways to pass time, Brokeback or Bible. Yeah, I mean, those are possibilities.
Those are 2 choices.
Mm-hmm. There's also, like playing the harp or whatever. There's other options.
People have always cared about heritage. Some people are very good at documenting it because they love their heritage and they want to track it back. They have a king's list that goes back all the way to Noah.
Yeah, but Ramat, a whole bunch of like medieval royalty made up genealogies going all the way back to Adam. But that's just because they were trying to pretend to have legitimacy.
Yeah, that's like if we followed, like, the Queen of England is descended from, like, Genghis Khan and, like, her genealogy is impossible.
Yeah, it's just there to legitimize a rule. Because here's the thing, right? There's actually nothing written in the laws of nature or nothing intrinsic to, the human condition that says this group of people should have political and economic power over this other group of people. So when you get into a situation where you do in fact have one group of people in political and economic power over other individuals, if they want to maintain that, they have to legitimize that situation.
Yeah.
Different groups have done that in different ways. Currently, in, say, the United States, we do it by saying things like, well, this was the will of the people via an election.
Mm-hmm.
And then behind the scenes, all sorts of people do things to try to make sure that that happens in the least democratic way possible.
Mm.
Similarly, in the past, the idea was, well, this person is in charge because of their illustrious pedigree. That means that they were chosen by God because of their godly ancestors and the competence of their family.
Right of kings.
And in order to help legitimize that, you come up with a really swanky pedigree that you just made up. And
by the
sure,
way,
it's accurate going as far back as people can remember and check on. Sorry, go ahead.
I gave the worst possible example for an impossible ancestor for Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah, because he's the ancestor
I am
of like
aware
everybody.
is deceased. Because I used Genghis Khan, and supposedly Genghis Khan is the ancestor of like a third of people living.
Yeah, but almost all of them are in Asia.
Yeah, that's true. But like Alexander the Great's on that list, right? Probably David, like
Hey, why not, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's incredible. They can track.
It is incredible, Raw Matt. That is very accurate. I'm going to take a drink.
Mm-hmm.
Their lineage, their bloodline, all the way back to Noah. That's incredible. That's a huge discovery.
Well, like you're saying, it's incredible. It's
Yeah.
not
That's true.
credible.
It's not credible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have evidence that comes in the form of linguistics.
I really am curious what this linguistics evidence is, because I've checked and I have yet to find anything that makes even a lick of sense about linguistics that is evidence for anything in the Bible, other than that different people group existed who had different language.
Genealogies, paleontology, genetics, biology.
Paleontology and genetics directly refute everything about the flood. I'm taking a drink.
Right. Also, please show me where paleontology and genetics are in the Bible.
Okay. I'm eating sausage.
Uh-huh.
Very painful, but stripy sticks equals stripy animals. Genetics in the Bible.
Okay.
We have all the evidence that we can need. My personal favorite just tend to land on the genetics and biology, but
The parts that are the least supportive of your position.
Yeah. Got it.
And also the part that you seem to know nothing about, Ramat. You screwed up a basic Punnett square in your published book, Matt.
Oof.
Yeah, I showed it to my friend who was a business major, who hasn't looked at genetics since she was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked at it and she was like, wait, hold up. And the longer she was looking at it, she's like, how is that? No, this isn't how any of this works. I'm like, yeah, I know. And she's like a business consultant. She didn't spend any time on like biology. I had to remind her what a Punnett square was in the first place, and she was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I remember those from high school.
Yeah.
And then that was the level of competence that it took with Punnett squares. Someone who kind of remembers it from high school to look at it and be like, wait.
Jeez.
No. Melly for $2 says, AIG is a bag of man milk secretors.
Cheers.
Take a drink for that. All right, here we go.
But the paleontology is a really good area because it confirms that the stories that are mentioned in Scripture are true.
Let's take a drink.
Yeah.
Have you seen the videos on Sodom and Gomorrah where a guy's in the location where it used to be, as Scripture says, and he pretty much picks up parts of the earth and it's just crumbling in his hand. It's just like covered in basically proof that it was destroyed. Have you?
I have seen those. We'll talk about those after I eat some sausage. Have you seen those, Maddie?
Okay. I have not. I just like to remind people what the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah is, right? Which is inhospitality to the stranger.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The sexual assault aspect is entirely secondary, and there is no aspect in which homosexuality factors in.
Exactly. The sin of Sodom is inhospitality.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The sexual assault is there to highlight just how inhospitable they were being.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, that's not to say that the story approves of the attempt, even if it weren't as part of a hospitality thing. But the reason you can tell that it's secondary is because one of the offered solutions to get the Sodom and Gomorrah people to not do this was, why don't you just assault my daughter?
Right. Yeah. Listen, and I don't think that's a good thing.
No.
But, like, I just, like, there's this idea that the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah was, like, gay sex.
Which, no, it wasn't.
And it really wasn't.
Yep. Okay, so in these videos, a man wanders around part of the desert in or just outside Israel, I don't remember exactly. And he's in an area where there are sulfur nodules, which are naturally occurring volcanic formations, right? They're just there.
Yeah.
And he's going around identifying things as ruined buildings, except that the entire thing is just natural stone. And the thing that he's saying is, look, that's a column. But it's just a little bit of stone that sticks out from the otherwise smoother canyon wall. That's it. That's all it is. That's the entire thing. There are no ruins there. There's no signs of any kind of human habitation from that time. In part because it's just an inhospitable place. You can't grow anything there. There's really no water there. No one wants to settle there. And the only connection is, well, this is kind of near Israel and the events of the Bible. And there's sulfur nodules. Therefore, Sodom and Gomorrah.
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Not Gomorrah from from Marvel.
Right. Different Gomorrah.
And Gomorrah. I think I prefer the one from Marvel, though, if I'm being honest. Although then again, she's not all that hospitable, at least some of the time.
She's not. I mean, maybe she's just living up to her namesake.
There.
You seen any of that?
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. There's a couple of those. Yeah, they find these gigantic balls of sulfur that have been...
By gigantic, he means basically like a little bit hard to close your fist around.
Okay, so like baseball to softball size?
A little bit smaller than a baseball most of the time. Some of them are about that size, though.
Gotcha.
Burning, and they can light them today and they still burn.
Yeah, that's because that's what sulfur is.
Sulfur does.
I'm drinking or eating another piece of sausage. Jeez.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, those are pretty good. I like that they have the drone footage of it. So they fly over with the drone and show it. Like, it still almost looks like a little city, but it's...
Only if you don't know what cities look like.
Yeah.
What it looks like is an area where different kinds of rock have eroded at different rates because of different hardnesses. That's what it looks like.
Just completely like white now. You can still see some of like the door frames. Pretty crazy.
Nope. You can see some slight hollowings in the side of the canyon. I'm taking another drink.
Crazy, yeah. Mount Sinai is a really good one because you can see where the mountain was burned on the top.
Oh, no, you can't. All right. So this claim is about a mountain that, by the way, is in Saudi Arabia, not in the Sinai Peninsula, which is what the Bible is actually talking about. Even though the Exodus didn't happen, it's still talking about the Sinai Peninsula.
Yeah.
But there's a mountain that's identified by some people as Mount Sinai, primarily because it is near a boulder that has a vertical cleavage as a result of erosion that they say is where Noah struck the rock and had water come out. That's not true because there's no evidence of water flow anywhere near here.
Right.
But what's actually happening is that these are just caps on the mountain of dark rock. That's it. It's literally just darker rock than the underlying strata.
Excellent. Love that.
Present in mountains across the region of Saudi Arabia. So if this is where God rested with his pillar of fire, were there like 80 Mount Sinai's in Saudi Arabia?
He just had to hit all of them. He didn't know which one Moses was on.
Yeah, he was wandering. That's why the Israelites were wandering around for the 40 years. God was just hopping from mountain to mountain, I guess.
Yeah. He had to check them all out because those were... Isn't there a mythology where mountains are the, like, male sex organs of giants?
I'm not aware of one, but then again, is there anything that hasn't been interpreted as a penis?
No.
Exactly.
But not any of the mountains.
Suddenly reminded of... Was I watching a replay of a video with you and Vish where you guys got talking about medieval art and dick trees?
Yeah, that was me and Vishanti. Yep.
That was you and Vishanti. Yeah,
that's a literal thing that definitely happened because people draw what they saw. They couldn't make things up.
Yeah, people don't have imaginations.
Nope, if they drew it, they saw it.
They saw it.
That was also when we talked about the giant human-sized rabbits that were going around killing people. Literal true events.
Literal true.
Found it,
and cats used to have people faces.
And that was the mountain where God descended. That's a really good one. I have a video on that on my channel as well, showing the ancient sites.
Well, I guess I know what kinds of stuff we might be watching after a quick interlude with Matt Powell after this.
We've got to go check out Matt Powell's YouTube page because he does like pranks now.
It's so
and
cringy.
I just feel like he's just descended into edgelord madness.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was never far off from that.
He was never far off.
And you can see that they go there. The Dead Sea crossing was another good one.
You know, elaborate on that, Matt? Because there's no evidence of the Dead Sea crossing. In fact, I think I know what he's talking about, which is extremely dumb. It's so dumb that before I even talk about it, I'm going to have to take another sausage here just to heat up my brain, apparently. Because, by the way, I've been sweating this entire time.
Yeah. You got to get your brain back up to speed. It's like trolls in Discworld, right? For them to think properly, you have to get them really cold. And the hotter it is, the less able they are to think because they're made of silica.
So basically, Ron Wyatt, a famously fraudulent biblical pseudo-archaeologist, did some diving in the Red Sea.
Okay.
And basically, he found some coral that kind of was round with a stem. And he was like, chariot wheels. Yep, chariot wheels right there.
Right there. I found it. I did
He
it.
didn't recover any chariot wheels. He didn't find any photographs that are unambiguously chariot wheels.
Well, no, that would be silly. Why would I bring evidence when you can just listen to
Exactly.
me?
And just like with all of his finds, he claims that there's much more evidence to come, but it's
of course.
been not forthcoming for decades. So
Right. I need money is the thing.
Obviously.
Yeah, obvi.
Just like he has all the blood tests from Jesus' blood that was dried but not dead underneath the garden tomb, which, by the way, we know for certain is not where Jesus was buried. Because the garden tomb, which is the favorite Protestant location for the tomb of Jesus, was not built until after Jesus would have died. And by until after, I mean like considerably after. So it's too young. Ironically, it is too young, just like everything else that these Protestants seem to think. It is far too young for it to have been the tomb. Now, that does not mean that the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is in fact where Jesus was buried, but it is, however, a tomb of the right age. So at least I can't say it's definitely not where Jesus was buried. It's in the running at least, which means it's a way better option.
Yeah, it's possible. It's not impossible for that to be the one.
It's also the location of the famous immovable ladder.
Ooh, why? Elaborate, please.
So, about 100 years ago or so, a workman came to do some work on the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and that involved repairing some like molding or something around a window.
Okay.
But he left his ladder there.
Okay.
Now, it requires consent of the three churches which have joint ownership over the Church of the Holy Sepulchre to make any changes to the interior at all, except in the places that are specifically solely owned by that one church, in which case it only requires their say-so.
Okay.
The wing that has this window is currently disputed as to who it belongs to, which means that by default it is treated as if it belongs to all three of them jointly, which means it requires all of them to come together, have a meeting, and have a unanimous consensus on what changes to make.
To move the ladder.
Yes. So they have yet to do so. And it's just there. It was moved a couple times by various people who were, in fact, committing crimes and was put back.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very important that it be there.
It is. Sorry, baby monitor.
Yeah, they
there
found
was
a lot of those areas.
Okay.
It's really good.
But
Did they find the wheels of like the golden chariots too?
Yep, exactly. What that counts as a prediction. I'm taking a drink.
That does count as a prediction. I love it.
Yeah, they left them down there. I don't know if they brought them out, but yeah, you can see pictures of the Egyptian chariots under the Red Sea in that area. Incredible.
By which, of course, raw mat means coral formations that kind of look like chariot wheels. Because remember, this is pseudoscience, and the one rule of pseudoscience is if it kind of looks like a thing, it is that thing.
It is that thing. Absolutely.
Incredible. Ron Wyatt found those.
Wow. Yes. I'm taking another drink as a prediction
for
on that
prediction.
one.
That's brilliant.
I didn't even have to have them say anything about this. And I'm like, nope, I know where they're going. This is Ron Wyatt.
Wow.
Yeah.
Someone asked, is he familiar with the book Genesis, Creation, and Early Man by Seraphim Rose?
No, that's a new one to me.
That's because, Matt, you're in the wrong group of Christians. Seraphim Rose was a Eastern Orthodox man who lived, I believe, in the United States, but I could be wrong about that. He's sort of popular with a particularly conservative branch of Eastern Orthodoxy, and that group of people would very much like for him to be glorified as a saint by some Eastern Orthodox church. No Eastern Orthodox church has actually been willing to do so. However, his books do remain popular, and it's not like the Eastern Orthodox Church has denounced any of his works. But yeah, he was famously an anti-evolution writer, and that is definitely the minority of his works. Most of his stuff is about mystical topics. So, like getting closer to God through prayer and things like that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, he does talk about evolution, and he is, in fact, an anti-evolutionist. But yeah, that's why Matt has never heard of Seraphim Rose. He was a monk, by the way, in case anyone cares. Although, I don't remember if he was a priest. If he was a priest, it ironically, severely hurts his chances of being glorified as a saint, because the Eastern Orthodox Church has almost no saints who were priests. Unless they then became bishops. Lots of bishop saints, lots of lay saints, virtually no priest saints. Lots of deacon saints, too.
I really like, in Episcopal land, lots of people are saints.
Mm-hmm.
Their bar for being a saint is much lower. I think Mozart is technically a saint because of because it's the contribution. It's more what they contributed to the faith as opposed to performed a miracle.
Okay.
Anyway,
I mean, technically, the Orthodox Church doesn't require miracles either. That's more of a Catholic thing. Actually, the Russian Orthodox Church outside of Russia recently, as far as I remember, glorified a Native American woman who was the wife of a priest as a saint.
Nice.
Yeah. There's a lot of Orthodox Native Americans in Alaska.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I actually went to ODS with an Eastern Orthodox chaplain. And he had been
one of 3 in the Navy.
Yeah, one of 3 in the Navy. And he had while we were there, he had lived with indigenous families in Alaska and been a missionary for 6 months. And they sent him seal jerky while we were in ODS. His host family sent him a care package.
Nice.
And so I got to try seal jerky. It was very fishy.
I would imagine so. Hollyhock, who's been a member for 7 months, says, Maddie, how did your quilt turn out? There we go, with a Godzilla. So let's drink for the Godzilla.
Oh, it was absolutely beautiful. I can drop pictures in Discord if you want.
Do it. Also, that's not actually a drink. That's a sausage piece. So here goes.
Okay. Cheers.
I'll have to re-listen to this and write it down. Now, what do they say about it? Anything in particular?
I have a lot of friends that are getting into Orthodoxy, and I personally relate to just non-denominational myself, because I think you can kind of get lost into denominations. But supposedly it's the oldest form of Christianity, Orthodoxy.
Supposedly it's the oldest form of Christianity?
Look, if you're Orthodox, then sure, you're going to say that. The Eastern Orthodox Church split from the Catholic Church in the 11th century. Now, of course, the Orthodox Church is going to say, well, we're maintaining the traditions from before that split over and against the novel things that the Catholics are doing. And to be fair, you can't find papal supremacy back, much before the 7th century or so. But here's the other thing. There's new stuff in Orthodoxy too. Right? Hesychasm wasn't a thing that the Orthodox were talking about back in the 11th century. That didn't come until after. So, are the Orthodox the oldest branch of Christianity? Well, I'll just say this. They're one of several groups that can make a plausible claim to being the oldest group, right? Along with the Oriental Orthodox, the Roman Catholic Church, the Old Catholic Church, the Church of the East. There's a whole bunch of churches that have split at various times who can trace their roots back to the time before the First Council of Nicaea, with a relatively reasonably verifiable, unbroken chain of tradition to that time. And every time there's a split, both sides would say, well, we were the ones who were doing the right thing, and we're just continuing to do what we were doing before. And most of them are, in fact, doing some new things that they weren't doing before. So is the Eastern Orthodox Church the oldest form of Christianity? Yes and no. It's not more or less the oldest form of Christianity than the Oriental Orthodox Church or the Church of the East or the Catholic Church.
Right. It's just that statement that he made felt so like I know absolutely nothing about church history.
Okay. As a general rule, evangelicals don't know anything about church history.
You're correct.
So,
Pastor Anderson, Stephen Anderson, actually.
Oh my goodness! I'm just taking a drink for a mention of Pastor Anderson.
Yeah.
I once received an invite to his church. I declined.
Ooh.
His church is outside Phoenix. I was living in Phoenix at the time.
It has a really funny hour sermon on orthodoxy. And
that sounds like the cringiest imaginable thing. No, I can't imagine it's funny.
Is it funny or is it hateful?
Oh, it's almost certainly hateful. I'm sure he screams at them for whatever it is that he objects to. Probably the veneration of saints and the use of icons.
Probably.
Also, maybe various Marian doctrines, although there's far fewer Marian doctrines in the Eastern Orthodox Church than, say, in the Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And, he says...
Oh, I missed DM Super Chat? Oh my goodness. I did. Thank you. For $5, DM Fragmentary Changes Wing says, Ron Wyatt, my days of taking you seriously have definitely come to a middle raw mat. Godzilla, Mothra, Ghidorah. We'll take a drink for that. Thank you. So sorry about that. Yeah, there's also the Ethiopian Church, which, by the way, is part of the Oriental Orthodox Church. So I do want to say that they're not separate from that group. But yeah, they do claim to have the Ark of the Covenant in a church in Ethiopia.
Ooh, that's cool. That's fun.
Well, I mean, do they, though?
By the way, I put a picture of my last quilt in the art section on Dapper's Discord.
Yeah, so if you're a channel member or a patron, head over there and check the art share. It's a text channel.
It's ridiculous, and I don't know. I just think it's kind of a distraction from worshiping Christ. But
anything that Stephen Anderson thinks is ridiculous, I'm probably in favor of. So
yeah.
You know what, guys? I'm going to go ahead and schedule my chrismation. There's got to be, I think there's like 3 or 4 Orthodox parishes in this area. Sure, one of them will chrismate me. So, like, hey, check back next time, like this year, but in like 2025. And my channel will just be wall-to-wall icons and Byzantine chant.
Love it.
That's it.
Love it.
And my streams will just be the Jesus prayer. Just that.
Just that.
But actually, that's also, we need to start wrapping up because it is only 2 minutes till the top of the hour. All right, guys. Thank you so much for all the support. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking the video. I really appreciate it. Maddie, do you have anything coming up on your channel you want to tell people about?
Actually, yes. Guys, in an effort to just not write my dissertation, I've been recording some videos that I'm calling like Journal Club. So I'm going in and reading journal articles from Answers Research Journal and live reacting and looking stuff up to them. And let me tell you, I got really mad in a funny way. Once we get to Milankovitch cycles and the author doesn't know how seasons work.
Yes.
So I'm going to start trying to release those like once a week. I've got 5 in the bag already. So probably release that on Thursday, I think, and do it as a premiere so we can have a chat and we can have like a live chat thing.
Nice.
So yeah, trying to get some stuff out on my channel. Yeah, but yeah, that's what I got. That's what I got coming up.
Okay. By the way, there are questions about chrismation in the chat. And so chrismation is a ordinance in the Orthodox Church, which is normally preferred directly after baptism of people who have not been baptized, so like babies or converts who haven't been baptized in a Christian church. However, if you convert to the Eastern Orthodox Church from another branch of Christianity that is Trinitarian and have been baptized in one of those churches, they will usually forgo baptism because they're against rebaptism, and instead they will simply perform the chrismation, which involves anointing the hands, feet, and forehead, and I think ears, with oil.
Cool.
And so, yes, that is one of the, basically, like, how you convert to become an Eastern Orthodox Christian rituals. So, yeah, that is what a chrismation is. So,
Cool. I did not know that.
If any of you are thinking about joining the Eastern Orthodox Church, which feel free if you want to, I guess. I don't care. You'll end up being chrismated at least. And if you haven't been baptized in a Trinitarian Christian group, then you'll probably be baptized. And it is going to be full immersion, almost certainly. So be prepared for that.
Will it be in a horse trough?
Depends on how big you are. But yeah, probably.
Okay.
I've seen.
So I guess I was baptized in a hot tub.
Okay. I've seen.
I did. Yeah. I got to be upgraded from the horse trough.
I've seen adult baptisms in an Orthodox church, and it was a big metal thing that looked like a horse trough to me. So.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, let's see what's coming up on the channel. So, on Thursday, we have the third and final Incoherent Shouty Moron episode. That is, why are whales? Because, of course, creationists, for some reason, simply cannot comprehend whales. Not the country, the animals. In case that was a question. Then, on Saturday, I currently have 2 streams planned. One, the first one, at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, is going to be a talk about nonsense about the Hebrew language with Vishanti and Dr. Kip Davis.
Fun! I like Kip.
Yep, we have all sorts of nonsense coming. We have people who think that Hebrew is oligosynthetic, that it doesn't have vowels somehow, that it's the original language of all humans, all sorts of crazy nonsense. So, and then later on that day, at I believe 8 Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, we have the actual award show for the Cambrian Bunny Awards. We will find out who won in each category. So,
yay!
Currently, the plan is to have back the whole group. T.D. Lane should be there. Dr. Dancer and Cardinal, Jordan from Reason to Doubt. I believe Dr. Zach Hancock. Yeah, I think Zach Hancock. Gutsa Gibbon, me. So yeah, the whole that crew that was there for the nominations, planning to be back. We might have a few people be late or, maybe not show, but that's okay. 1 or 2 people, it's fine. So yeah, that's the plan for that. And then, of course, next week, a week from today, same time, plan is Jackson with Jackson Wheat, talking about Charles Jackson.
Nice. Bad Jackson.
Bad Jackson. And that one should be called King Charles I of Stupid, because, of course, Charles Jackson is named Charles. And the thumbnail is a picture of Charles Jackson's face photoshopped over King Charles' face during his coronation.
Excellent.
Yeah.
You had so much fun with those thumbnails, didn't you?
I made like 8 or 9 thumbnails one day.
Yeah.
And I just scheduled all the streams.
I appreciate all the Star Trek references.
Oh, yeah, there were a lot of those. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. If you are interested and you're a channel member or a patron, I will be streaming the first 4 episodes of Power Rangers Ninja Storm over on my Discord. Maddie, you might even like that one.
I like that one.
All right. Bye, everybody. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week. Stay safe out there, and we will talk to you on Thursday because you're all going to be here. Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Benthoven, Phil Javara, Tapioca Weasel, Whispers, Denny5252, Elron Teller, Horseflesh, Ian Chen, Landon Knoll, Maddie Babbity, Monkey They Them, Robert Carpenter, Sphincter of Doom, Vollus, Eddie McCoy, Ita V, and Strawberry Vein. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.